Hello, Miguel from Grumo here, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to integrate Glide with Stripe to build your own e-commerce website. You can get a copy of this template at grumo.com/stripe app. And now let me show you how this template works. So we have a wine store here. We will click on any product and then we will click on buy. This takes us to a Stripe page where we can enter a custom quantity, let's say 4 bottles, and then we would enter our credit card details and press pay. When we do that, we should be able to see a new transaction here. And there it is. We click on it and we can see the product, the price per unit, the quantity, and the total. What has happened in the background is that Stripe has sent a call to Zapier, and I have a Zapier automation that writes back to my sales table inside Glide. And you can see how the sales table has a new row with the data that Stripe has sent to Zapier and that Zapier has sent back to Glide. And now let me show you how to build this from scratch. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is start with a very bare bones app that only has a users table with a single user and a products table with 3 products. Now we need to build the tables that we need for this app. So the first table we're going to build is a payment links table. And that's where we're going to store the different prices and the links to Stripe, to the checkout pages on Stripe. So let's just click the plus button, new table. I'm going to call this pay links, and it's going to have a name table. We're going to add another table, which is going to be the price ID. And that's going to be a number table with position 1, no need for group separator. And that's going to be the ID of the prices. In this case, we're going to have 3 different prices. We're going to have 3 rows here, and we're going to name them 0, 1, and 2. The prices are going to be basic, medium, and premium. And then another column here, which is going to be the actual amount. So it's going to be called amount, number type, precision 2, and we're just going to put a $sign here, display units after number. It's going to be unchecked, right? And we can enter the values here, 15, 30, and 45. Now we can go to our products table and add a new column called price ID. And that's going to be of the type number, precision 1, no group separator. And we can enter just, the 3 prices, 0, 1, and 2. And then we're going to map this to the pay links table. And that's going to be the price. And we're going to use a single value computed column. We're going to grab from start the price ID from the table pay links and the actual amount. This means that we could now assign prices to each of the products. For that, we click on the edit button here, and we can add a new choice component that is writing to the price ID. The source is going to be pay links. The value is going to be the price ID, and we're going to display it as the amount. And you can see here, we're going to get rid of that and say required, and we can assign any of these 3 prices to our products. Now we go back to our data view, and under pay links, we're going to add a new column. It's going to be the Stripe link. And here's where we're going to copy and paste the payment links for each of the products. So for that, we have to go to Stripe, and under your account, you should be on test mode first to test with test credit cards, not with real money. And then you can go to payment links, and you can create a test payment link in this case. And then you would add a new product, which we could call in this case wine basic, and The price is going to be $15 US. Add the product. We're going to let customers adjust the quantity, and it's going to be from 0 to, let's say, a maximum of 10 bottles, and we're going to create the link. Now we can copy that link and paste it under the basic price here. And we need to do that for all the other prices that we may have. The main drawback is that you have to create as many payment links as potential prices that you may have on your store, because you cannot change dynamically the price of the product on the checkout page on Stripe using payment links. So having said that, let's create the other 2 payment links. So I've done the same thing as we did with the basic price, and I have now 3 links. All I have to do is copy this to my database under the payment links table. So I'm going to copy that one for the medium price, and the same thing for the premium price. And there you go. We could test these payment links right now by just copying this onto our browser, and we're taken to the corresponding checkout page for that payment link. The problem is that if we do a transaction now, that's not going to be registered back to Glide. And to do that, we have to set up a Zapier automation that is listening to Stripe for any transaction, and when that transaction is successful, it writes back to Glide to record the transaction. So let's create that Zapier automation. You'll need a Zapier account, of course, and then you're going to click the plus button here and create a new Zap. And we're going to call this Stripe to Glide Store. And the trigger event is going to be of the type webhooks by Zapier. And now we are going to choose the type of event. It's going to be catch a hook. Now we're going to copy this webhook URL and go back to Stripe, and under developers, we're going to go under webhooks and add an endpoint, and we're going to copy and paste our Zap webhook URL here, and then we're going to click select events and start typing checkout and select checkout session completed and add the event and then add endpoint. Now, every time there is a new transaction, Stripe is going to send a call to this URL, and Zapier is listening for that call every time a transaction happens, and that will trigger this Zap. The first thing that we need to do is to test the trigger, but no request has been found. So we have to perform a test purchase. So there is some data that Zapier can get from Stripe. So we're going to go to our pay links and then just grab any of these pay links that we just created and then perform a test transaction, filling it with a test credit card number, which in this case is 42424242, and then any date on the future, and then a name and a zip code, and then just click pay. And then when we go back to Stripe, we can test the trigger, and you can see that request has been detected with that checkout session. With this, now we can write back to Glide, and for that we need to get Glide's table API data, and you have to go to the table where you want to write, but we haven't created that table. We have to create a sales table. So we're just going to create a new Glide table, and we're going to call it sales. And here we have to decide what kind of data we want to store about our transaction. First, we're going to add a row ID. We're going to delete the default name column. We want to store the product ID of the product that has been purchased. We may want to also store the buyer email, the amount which Stripe sends in cents, and it's going to be of the column type number, precision 1, no need for the group separator. And then we want to collect the timestamp, which Stripe is going to send us in Unix format. Now we can finally grab this table's API data. And in this case, we want to add a row. And what we want to do is to copy this information into our Zapier Zap. And let's start with the post request URL. And we're going to go here and add webhooks by Zapier. And the event is going to be of the type custom request. We're going to click continue. The method is going to be post. The URL is the one that we just copied. And then we need to add the data. So it's going to be exactly this data row. So from there to there. And we can paste that under data. Perfect. And then we're going to go to headers. We have to add 2 unique headers. The first one is going to be content type. Okay. And it's going to be application JSON. Then the authorization, and then our custom API key. So it's going to be bearer and then a secret code. It's going to be our secret token, which we can copy directly from here and paste it there. And what we have to do now is tell Zapier what data we want to grab from Stripe and write it back into our glides table. So we have to change these values with the values that we're getting from Stripe. Now, the problem is that we're not getting the product ID by default. So we have to add that to our buyer's link. And to do that, we're going to go back to our Glide app, and under products, we're going to generate a unique payment link that contains the product ID, which in this case is the row ID. And that has to go into a URL parameter that has to be called client underscore reference underscore ID for it to work. So let's do that. The first thing we're going to do is grab the payment link from the payments table. We just need to duplicate the price column in this case, and that's going to be the payment link. And we're going to grab the actual Stripe link. And to this, we have to append the client reference ID. So let's just create a new column. It's going to be a payment link plus parameters. It's going to be a template type of column. And we're going to use this template, which is, we're going to replace the numbers here, 1, 2, and 3. 1 is going to be the actual payment link. 2 is going to be the client reference ID, which in this case is the product ID, stored under the row ID. It's automatically generated by Glide. And then we can also optionally pre-fill the email address in the checkout page. So value number 3 is going to be replaced with the currently logged in user's email address. And if the buyer is not logged in, it simply won't pre-fill the email in the checkout page. Now, if we copy and paste this in our browser, we should be able to see that the email has been pre-filled, but now we also have the client reference ID that we need in order to tell Glide which product the buyer actually bought. So let's just perform another sale. Enter the credit card information. Click pay, and then let's just grab another. When we test it, let's just find new records here, and we should have request B, and this should actually have the client ID, client reference ID. There it is. Perfect. Now we can use that to write back to Glide. We have here the product ID, which we have to replace with the client reference ID. We simply look for it here, start typing client, and there it is. Then the buyer's email, that's going to be the email, and we can just scroll down until we find it. There it is. And the amount in cents, we type amount, and we should see it there, amount total, and the timestamp, which should be under the actual data object created. And now we have all the values that we want to pass back to Glide. Okay, so let's just click continue, and we could test this step and see if it actually works. And it says page not found. So let's just, this is probably an error with the information we're sending here. And the problem is that the URL is the incorrect one, because when I switched tabs here, I lost it. It goes, when you click a different programming language, it actually takes you back to the get rows API, and we want the add rows, and the correct URL for this API, and we just need to paste it here, and we can test it. And it should have written a new row, which we can see here. We have the product ID that we passed as the client reference ID in the payment links parameter, the buyer email, the amount in cents, and the timestamp in Unix format. And we can delete this row. There you go. So that is working. So we've done the most important thing. The integration is working now, and we're recording every Stripe transaction back to our Glide sales table. So now we just simply need to finish the layout of our app. So for example, we should add a buy button. Just click on the add component and click button. And we need to make this just a buy and open link. Okay, and the link is the payment link plus parameter. So when we click on it, it should take us to the checkout page, and then we can test a transaction. But before we do that, we have to turn on or publish our news app. And once it's published, we should be able to perform this transaction. Click pay, and then under our sales table, there should be a new transaction. That is correct. Perfect. So that is working. Now, if we want to display the transactions as a list under each product, we would create a, let's say, a new container and make it medium and a little bit spaced. And then we need to add the transactions here. So we have to relate each product to the sales table. So sales rel is going to be a relation type of column. And it's going to match multiple, and we're going to match the row ID with the product ID under the sales table. There you go. And we can see that there is already some sales. And then so when we insert a new component, let's say of the type list, and we use the sales relation as the source, we can see that transactions in here. And now it's just a matter of making this look prettier. So there's no image. The description could have the buyer's email. We could have the timestamp here, but the timestamp is not pretty. So it's just a matter of now formatting the timestamp so it looks like an actual readable timestamp. And to do that, we can go back to our sales table, and we have to convert this Unix timestamp to a more readable date format. So let's create a new computed column, and it's going to be called timestamp JS for JavaScript, because we're going to use a JavaScript column with this code that you can copy. And basically, we're going to convert the timestamp to this type of format that Glide understands, because when we create another timestamp column here, we can convert this using text to date, and the text is going to be the string that we generated from the Unix timestamp, and we can convert this to short. And now we have a valid date that we can use in our layout. So if we go here under meta, we can grab that. And the next thing we should get is the actual dollar amount. So remember that Stripe sends the amount in cents, so we need to convert that to dollars. So we're going to create a new computed column of the math type, and we're going to divide the cents by 100 and add a $sign. And now we have the dollar amount, which we can display under the title here. Okay, and then we can, under actions, we can remove the actions. They're removed. Under options, we don't need the search bar. And we want to sort by the Unix timestamp in reverse chronological order. So there you go. Now we have the sales transactions appearing here. And maybe just we want to add here under fields, maybe want to add here the actual price, which is going to be price. And we can also display that on the main page. We go here to the main page under collection, under the description, we can display the price as well. And we can see how this looks on mobile. And well, that is pretty much it. There is another thing is that if they buy more than one, we get the total amount. We don't get the quantity from Stripe. So we may have to divide the total amount by the price. And for that, we have to refer back to the product to grab the actual cost per unit. So let's just create a relation back to the product using the product ID, right? And it's going to be product ID relating back to products. And now we can do a lookup column to get the actual price per unit, right? Lookup, and we're going to use the new relation to product to grab the actual price. And then what we can do is divide the total amount that we got from Stripe, okay? And let me just duplicate that. And it's going to be quantity. It's basically math column where we're going to divide the total amount in dollars by the price per unit. And we don't need precision. And then we can see here that there is 1 unit there. So if we do another transaction, we should get the right amount of units. Let's test the quantity by going to layout and actually purchasing more than 1 item. So let's change this to, let's say, 3. And then we just enter the test credit card. Click pay, and then we should be able to get a different amount. So there you go, 90. And under the sales table, we can see that that is a quantity of 3. And we can display that all those values nicely on the detail page for the actual transaction. So we could say that, okay, the price per unit is 30, the quantity is 3, the total is 90, right? So total, quantity, price, unit. Okay. So there you go. This is how you integrate Stripe with your Glide applications. If you want a copy of this template, just go to grumo.com/Stripe app. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.